Saudi Aramco, naturally occurring radioactive material, norm. Naturally occurring primordial radioactive nuclides and their radioactive decay products, which have been enhanced above its natural levels due to industrial operations. Radioactive materials such as uranium and thorium were incorporated in the Earth's crust when it was formed. These normally exist at trace, parts per million, ppm, concentrations in rock formations. Decay of these unstable radioactive elements produces other radionuclides that, under certain conditions, dependent upon pressure, temperature, acidity etc., in the subsurface environment are mobile and can be transported from the reservoir to the surface with the oil gas products being recovered. During the production process, norm flows with the oil, gas and water mixture and accumulates in scale, sludge and scrapings. It can also form a thin film on the interior surfaces of gas processing equipment and vessels. The level of norm accumulation can vary substantially from one facility to another depending on geological formation, operational and other factors. To determine whether or not a facility has norm contamination, norm survey, sampling and analysis needs to be conducted. Indicates where norm may accumulate, example, at wellheads in the form of scale, at gas-oil separation plants, GOSP, in the form of sludge, and at gas plants the form of thin films as the result of radon gas decay. There are three types of radiation emitted by norm, namely, alpha, beta, health hazards of norm. There are two ways in which personnel can be exposed to norm, namely, irradiation, external exposure where the source remains outside the body, contamination, internal exposure where radioactive material is taken into the body via inhalation, ingestion or absorption. Norm contamination limits. Materials and waste media such as sludge scale containing norm at levels below those listed in Table 1 shall be exempted from the requirements of this procedure. Soil shall not have a Ra-226 contamination above 1.1 becquerels per gram, 30 pci per gram. Soil shall not have a U-238 contamination above 3.0 becquerels per gram, 80 pci per gram. Equipment and clothing shall be considered norm contaminated if internal or external surface contamination measures double the radiation background level. Workers' protection. Workers entering norm-contaminated equipment or conducting intrusive work on norm-contaminated equipment shall adhere to the following guidelines. Personnel required to work with norm must be trained in the associated hazards. All norm operations shall be covered by a safe system of work which shall identify the hazards and highlight the precautions to be taken. Any item or area with detectable levels of loose norm contamination shall be subject to radiological controls. Eating, drinking, smoking, and chewing are not allowed in work areas where potential norm contamination exists. Only essential personnel shall be allowed in the work areas where potential norm contamination exists. Personnel shall thoroughly wash up with copious quantities of soap and water, after working with contaminated equipment, and before eating, drinking, or smoking, and at the end of the workday. Appropriate PPE shall be worn, which may include but not be restricted to norm PPE, Tyvek coveralls, neoprene, PVC, or NBR gloves, half-face respirators with HEPA, cartridges, these must be fit tested, quarter-face HEPA disposable respirators. I am always using norm PPE when I deal with sludge. What about you? Disposal of norm waste. norm-contaminated waste shall not be dispatched for unrestricted release. For temporary storage, norm waste shall be kept in suitable containers, which comply with the following requirements: are in good condition with no visible indications of internal or external corrosion, and made of a durable material such that it provides adequate containment of the norm waste during the storage period. Made of or lined with materials that will not react with, or be incompatible with, the norm waste to be containerized so that the ability of the container is not impaired or compromised. Be resistant to degradation from ultraviolet radiation. Be closed and sealed during storage. And practical to open and reseal when it is necessary to add or remove waste. Shall not be opened, handled, or stored in a manner that may rupture the container or cause it to leak. Shall bear the radiation symbol and a label clearly indicating that it contains norm-contaminated waste. Areas where containers of norm waste are stored shall be inspected by the proponent on a quarterly basis. Containers shall be inspected for signs of leaks, overall deterioration, and proper labeling. Records of these inspections shall be documented and properly maintained.